The UPSC CSE arena is an ever-evolving space where staying up to date becomes as crucial as maintaining a thorough preparation. With strategic planning and holistic coverage for exam syllabus, Vision IS Delhi presents GS Foundation course. Avail analysis and integration of current affairs with GS syllabus. All India test series with an innovative assessment system, inculcating post-test analysis, discussion, all India ranking, and more. Explore the holistic learning modules intrinsically designed for the ideal aspirant.
Let us move on to the next topic, coalition governments. Coalition governments. Coalition governments. Let us move on to the next topic, coalition governments. Right? And if you have any doubts about the one which we have discussed, you can ask. Urban local bodies. Right? So then let us move on to this topic, coalition governments. Why this is important? Because after a period of 10 years of single party rule, we have seen the emergence of coalition government at the central level for the first time. And we are also witnessing a coalition governments at the state level. For example, in big states like Maharashtra or in states like Bihar, you have only coalition governments. So what is the impact of this coalition government on governance, on administration, is what we have to look at. So what are we looking at as part of this topic? What are the things? First, we will start with why do we have these coalition governments in the first place? Why? Then what exactly is a coalition government? Because we need conceptual clarity. Then, what about the history of coalition governments in India? What about the history of coalition governments in India? Then we'll also be looking at the major problems faced by coalition governments. Basically, we are looking at the strengths and the weaknesses. Of coalition governments. And finally, we will try to come out with the solutions. Finally, we will try to come out with the solutions to these problems of coalition governments. This is what we are going to look at. So, starting with the why coalition governments in the first place. Why do you have coalition governments? Coalition governments emerge when no political party, no single political party is in a position to form the government on its own. That is when we have coalition governments. So if you look at our parliamentary democracy, in our parliamentary democracy, if you look at it, any political party that has 273 seats in Lok Sabha can form the government. That is what is called simple majority. 545 by 2 plus 1. So 273 seats is what we need to form the government. And if you look at India's political history, during the initial period of our independence for the first 20 years, we had only one major political party in the country, single political party, Congress Party. Congress Party. In the elections that were held to Lok Sabha in 1952, 1957 and 1962, we had a single party rule, right? We had a single party rule, right? And with the Congress Party getting almost 350 seats in Lok Sabha in all these elections. So there was a lot of political stability in the country. Then what happened? In 1967, for the first time, what we have witnessed was decline of a Congress Party. The majority of the Congress Party in Lok Sabha had come down to 290 seats. It had come down to 290 seats. And what is the majority required? 273. So Congress Party had around 17 seats more than what is needed. Then what happened? Within 2 years, there was a split in the Congress Party, 1969, into two factions, Congress O and Congress R. Congress Co, Organizational Congress, led by senior leaders of the party. Congress R was led by Indira Gandhi. So what happened? Out of these 290 members, around 250 of them sided themselves with Indira Gandhi. Around 40 of them were with Congress O. Suddenly what happened? Indira Gandhi's government had become a minority government. Minority government. Her government had become minority government. Please remember, in our parliamentary democracy, a political party does not require a majority on the floor of the house to continue in power. They don't require a majority. What is needed? They should be able to manage the Lok Sabha whenever voting takes place. Otherwise, you can continue have minority. P.V. Narasimha Rao government, 1991, was a minority government, and it continued for 2.5 years till 1993. So you don't require any majority. So what happened here? When the Congress government led by Indira Gandhi had become minority government, it had got support from the communist parties, left parties. They provided the support to the government, and it has survived. Left parties have provided support to the government. That is the reason why they said that Indira Gandhi must implement their radical left agenda, which she has done. She has abolished private purses, and she has nationalized public sector private sector banks, and she has come out with radical legislations like there's FERA, Foreign Exchange Regulation Act, and MRTP legislation to implement the radical left agenda. So it was a minority government but not a coalition government, because it was supported by the left parties from outside. They did not join the government. Then what happened? After a repeal of emergency, elections were held in 1977. Elections were held to Lok Sabha in 1977 after repeal of emergency. All those opposition parties have fought unitedly against the Congress party. J. Prakash Narayanan, who was the spiritual leader of the opposition parties, he said that you must come together and fight elections unitedly against Congress party. It led to all these political parties merging into what is called Janata movement. A new political party, Janata Party, had come into existence. And it had Congress O, Bharatiya Jansangh, BJP, Bharatiya Jansangh, then Lok Dal, Swatantra Party. Please remember, all these were asked in your prelims. Post-independent India history. They are asking these questions in your prelims nowadays. Right? So, all of them merged themselves into Janata movement. And they contested elections unitedly. And this Janata Party had come to power with around 300 seats in Lok Sabha, 295 in Lok Sabha. For all practical purposes, we say that this Janata government was India's first coalition government. For all practical purposes, we say that this Janata government was India's first coalition government. Why? All these political parties with radically different ideologies, had come together with one objective, that is to remove Indira Gandhi from position of power. But this experiment was short-lived. It was there only for 2.5 years. It had collapsed. Then 1980 elections were held, Congress party came to power. Again in 1984 December elections were held. After the assassination of Indira Gandhi, again Congress party came to power. And Congress party had more than 420 seats. In 1987, there was this Bofors scam, which has adversely impacted the image of the then Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi. And under this context, elections were held in 1989. And when the elections were held in 1989, we had witnessed what is called a hung parliament. What is a hung parliament? Hung parliament is the one wherein no political party is able to get a majority on its own in Lok Sabha. So Congress party emerged as the single largest party with 190 seats. The president has invited Congress party to form the government, Venkat Raman. And Rajiv Gandhi has said that he would not be able to form the government because he does not have majority. That is when India has a first coalition government in its political history after 1947. We had a coalition government called National Front Government. National Front Government consisting of Janata Dal led by VP Singh, who went on to become the Prime Minister of the country. Then other regional political parties, Telugu Desam Party, DMK, then other regional political parties in North India, basically political parties like RJD. In fact, in those days there was no RJD. All of them were part of Janata Dal only. So all of them are part of a coalition government, all these political parties. But still they did not have majority in Lok Sabha. It is a coalition government and also a minority government. It was also a minority government. They still did not have majority. Why? Because Janata Dal was the largest constituent with 140 seats. And TDP DMK did not get good number of seats as such. So And what is the majority required? 273. The majority required is 273. So what happened? This coalition government was supported from outside by two major but completely opposing political forces. We have the rightist party BJP and left parties CPM and CPI supported the government. These parties supported the government. India's first coalition government. BJP had around 90 seats in Lok Sabha. CPM, CPI had around 66 in Lok Sabha. They supported the government from outside. It was a coalition government. It was also a minority government. Obviously, it was highly unstable. VP's government collapsed within 11 months. Then Chandrasekhar had become the Prime Minister. He was there only for again few months. So again what happened? In 1991, elections were held to Lok Sabha. In those elections, unfortunately, Rajiv Gandhi, the then opposition leader, was assassinated. And Congress party emerged as the single largest party with 220 seats in Lok Sabha. Again, majority required is 273. It formed what you call a coalition government with AIADMK, regional party. It has around 30 seats. So they have 250 seats. Majority required is 273. Majority required is 273. That's what I said. To form government, you don't require majority on the floor of the house. And P. Narasimha Rao, who was otherwise known as Kautilya of Indian politics, he had managed the government with this kind of minority. When it comes to economic issues, he took support from the BJP because BJP was a rightist party which believes in privatization, liberalization and globalization. So for economic reforms, he took the support of BJP. For other, he took the support of communist parties. But the government survived. And in 1993, he got a majority by splitting other political parties. As you study in your polity, JMM bribery scam also, Jharkhand Mukti Morcha. Then again in 1996, elections were held. Again it was hung assembly, and Atal Bihari Vajpayee was asked to form the government by the Prime Minister because BJP was the single largest party. His government did not last for more than 13 days because he did not get support from other political parties. Then we had a lot of political instability. United Front government was formed by regional political parties. First it was Deva Gowda and then Indra Kumar Gujral. Again in 1998 elections were held, and this time BJP got the support of other political parties. It formed a coalition government with the support of AIADMK and TDP and other political parties. The government did not last for more than 13 months. Again elections were held in 1999, and this time again BJP got a good number of seats, and they formed what is known as NDA government. It was there till 2004. So if you look at it from 1989 till 2014, we had coalition governments. In 2004, elections were held. Congress party emerged as the single largest party with 140 seats in Lok Sabha. And they formed the coalition government with the support of DMK, RJD and other regional political parties, with left parties supporting the government from outside. And the government was there between 2004 to 2014. So from 1989 to 2014, we had this era of coalition governments. And people were fed up with coalition governments. So they were looking for a stable polity. In 2014, BJP promised that kind of stable polity, and it had come to power. They got a majority on their own in Lok Sabha in 2014. 14. And then in 2019, they improved their majority and got more than 300 seats. So for a period of 10 years, we have had political stability. Then in 2024 elections, BJP got only 240 seats. That necessitated coalition governments again. And that is the reason why we are discussing about coalition governments. Because these coalition governments have become now the order of the day at the central level, with the BJP not being able to get the required majority on the floor of the house. It is getting support from these regional political parties, Telugu Desam Party in Andhra Pradesh, from Andhra Pradesh, and Nitish Kumar's Janata Dal United. So the question that we are asking here is coalition governments good or bad for the country? And what are the major strengths and what are the major weaknesses of coalition governments? That is what we have to ask. Because if you look at our polity, GS paper 2, nowadays all the questions are more about polity than constitution. So you need understanding of the political systems and the functioning of our dynamics of our polity to write good answers. So what is the criticism against coalition governments? If you happen to see in the last few months, there are so many criticisms against the present BJP government. Why? Because they are not able to take tough policy decisions. That is one of the major criticisms against coalition governments. For example, when the budget was presented, there was so much of criticism of the budget by the opposition parties. Why? They said that this budget was basically to satisfy the coalition partners. That is what opposition parties have mentioned. They said that up ki bar Andhra and Bihar regarding the budget, because Bihar got around 60,000 crores of rupees from budget and Andhra had got around 15,000 crores of rupees. And they said that out of 28 states in India, only 2 states have been given so much of money because of compulsions of coalition politics. They say that these regional political parties are blackmailing the central government. Then what are the other criticisms against these coalition governments? And there are so many instances when the government went back on its tough policy measures during this period. For example, take the case of lateral entry into civil services. UPSC in the month of August announced what is called lateral entry into various secretariat positions, 45 vacancies. And this kind of lateral entry was done by UPSC in 2018. It was done in 2019 also. It was done. At that point of time, there were no reservations that were given. UPSC has filled in not 1 or 2, 62 positions through lateral entry. It was never controversial. No reservations were provided also. But now, when UPSC announced 45 vacancies to be filled in through lateral entry, there was so much of criticism. Finally, the government was forced to withdraw because of the fact that the government is not as strong as it was during the previous times. And the criticism against the government as part of this coalition governments was in this recent budget session also. The government wanted to introduce so many bills, but opposition parties have strongly opposed them. For example, the most critical one is this Waqf amendment bill. Opposition parties have said that you must send the bill to a joint parliamentary committee. And the government had no option but to send the bill to joint parliamentary committee because they don't have majority, because some of the coalition parties have opposed it. Telugu Desam Party has said that they are in favor of the bill, but they said that we need to have much wider consultations. So the bill should be sent to JPC. This is another thing that happened in the last few months. Similarly, in the budget, the government finance minister has introduced changes to some of these tax rates, especially calculation of these property taxes. If you are selling your property today and you have brought the property 10 years back, then there are some kind of changes. There was so much of opposition to those kind of changes. Finally, the finance minister was forced to withdraw those changes as part of the finance bill that was tabled on the floor of the House later. That is when the question that had been asked here is, are these coalition governments good for the country or not? Are these coalition governments good for our country or not? What is the impact of these coalition governments on our administration? Are they good or bad? Are they good or bad? So what do you think? Are these coalition governments good or bad? More bad than good. Why? Okay, anything else? So let us look at all these things. What are the strengths and what are the weaknesses of coalition governments? Ultimately, we will try to come out with a conclusion whether they are going to be good or bad. If they are going to be good, either good or bad, what kind of changes that needs to be made to coalition governments? Let us look at them. So let us start with what are the major problems with coalition governments. What are the major problems with coalition governments? First and foremost, what the critics have mentioned repeatedly is that this functioning of coalition governments would mostly result in what is called policy paralysis. Policy paralysis. Please remember, this policy paralysis was asked for a general essay, 250 marks. Till few years back, you had to write only one essay. Now UPSC has said that you have to write 2 essays. Before that, you had to write only one essay. This policy paralysis was asked for 250 marks. Why? This was during the tenure of UPA government, especially between 2009 and 2014. Between 2009 and 2014. It was a coalition government which ultimately resulted in policy paralysis. What do you mean by policy paralysis? What do we mean by policy paralysis? What is paralysis? Is a medical condition when some part of your body is not functioning. In the same manner, policy paralysis means the government is not able to take policy decisions. It is not able to implement those policy decisions. That results in what is called policy paralysis. Why did we say that? Because the basic problem with a coalition government, is it consists of political parties with different ideologies. The basic problem with a coalition government is it consists of political parties with different ideologies. Right? It consists of political parties with different ideologies. You have national political parties. You have regional political parties. You have political parties with leftist ideologies. right? You have political parties with the rightist ideologies. So when they come, all of them come together, then what happens? To ensure consensus can become extremely difficult. To ensure consensus can become extremely difficult. That is when it results in policy paralysis. The government is not able to take decisions because of conflicts among the coalition partners. I'll just give you one example here to explain this. Between 2004 and 2009, when UPA was in power, Congress party had only 140 seats in Lok Sabha. 140 seats, not at all sufficient. So what happened between 2004 and 2009? Finance Minister Chidambaram, who is always a strong supporter of this liberalization and globalization, wanted to disinvest from public sector enterprises, raise money by disinvesting from public sector enterprises. But what we have witnessed is complete policy paralysis here. Why? Whenever he would bring this topic of disinvestment in the meeting of the cabinet, in the meetings of the cabinet, immediately it was strongly opposed by DMK, strongly opposed by TMC, Trinamool Congress, strongly opposed by this Samajwadi Party, and strongly opposed by RJD, Lalu Prasad Yadav. And this government was supported from outside by left parties. They would immediately tell Chidambaram that if you proceed with the disinvestment, we will withdraw support to the government. So a very good policy like disinvestment could not be carried out because of compulsions of coalition politics. That is what we say policy paralysis. For those 5 years between 2004 and 2009, the government could not raise even a single rupee through disinvestment. Why? Because of compulsions of coalition politics. This is the major problem with coalition governments. There will be policy paralysis. That is the major problem with coalition governments. Next, what is the other problem with coalition governments? Right? Again, continuing with this government only. During this period, Railway Minister was first Lalu Prasad Yadav and then Mamata Banerjee. They would never allow the government to increase these fares, train fares. Why? Political populism. The cost of production, the cost of maintaining railways is going up every day. But they would not allow the government to increase the passenger fares. That would lead to railways incurring huge amount of losses. And can the Prime Minister do anything? No. This is the next problem with the coalition government. Second problem with the coalition government is that Prime Minister will have very little control over Council of Ministers. Why? Why Prime Minister will have little control over Council of Ministers? Over the cabinet? Why Prime Minister will have little control? Because first, Does the Prime Minister have the power to appoint Council of Ministers? Does he have the power? Who will decide the Council of Ministers? Regional political parties. Regional political parties. They will decide who are going to be the ministers in the cabinet from their political party. If the Prime Minister is not satisfied, can the Prime Minister do anything? Never. That is what exactly happened to Manmohan Singh. In 2009, Congress party got more seats in Lok Sabha. They got more than 200 seats. But still, majority is not there. DMK with 35 seats was supporting the party. It is part of the coalition. Then in 2008, we had this 2G spectrum scam. 2G spectrum scam. It is alleged that one of the ministers, DMK ministers, was part of this scam. A. Raja. He was arrested by CBI also. So after the elections were over, Manmohan Singh did not want Raja to be in the Council of Ministers. He said that there were allegations of corruption against him, so I don't want to be in the Council of Ministers. Immediately, what did DMK say? DMK has said that they will not join the government. If they don't join the government, will the government be stable? Never. And finally, Manmohan Singh had to accept the demand of DMK that Raja should be part of Council of Ministers. Second, allocation of portfolios. Allocation of portfolios. Again, Manmohan Singh did not want Raja to be again telecom minister because there were allegations of corruption. Again, DMK has said that they will not join the government if Raja is not telecom minister. Again, Manmohan Singh had to accept. In case of a coalition government, the authority and power and prestige enjoyed by the Prime Minister will be very, very less. That is the problem. When the leader does not have the power, can the ship be safe and stable? When the captain of the ship does not have the power, can the ship be stable and peaceful? And that is the problem with the coalition government. Prime Minister simply does not have real powers to appoint Council of Ministers and also to allocate portfolios. This is the next problem. Next, what are the other problems with the coalition government? Next problem with the coalition government is the country can become a soft state. It can become a soft state. What do you mean by soft state? What do we mean by country becoming a soft state? Again, this was asked for 250 marks in your general essay. Is India a soft state? A soft state is that a particular government which is not in a position to take tough policy decisions. Is that government which is not willing to take tough policy decisions. And that is what India was criticized during this period of UPA government. It is said that India had become a soft state. For example, in 2008, Kasab and other terrorists have attacked India. But India did not take any action against Pakistan. And that is when it is said that India has become a soft state. Why? Because the Prime Minister and the government do not have majority. And if you want to take a decision, then you have to take the support of your coalition partners. Some of them are willing, some of them are against it. Can you take any tough decisions? This is what the next problem. The country can become a soft state because of the fact that the government is not in a position to take tough policy decisions. Next, criticism against coalition government. This coalition government can adversely impact efficiency of administration. It can adversely impact efficiency of administration. Why? Why a coalition government adversely impact efficiency of administration? Why? Because the Prime Minister's focus will be different. What is the focus of the Prime Minister? Survival. That means how to survive on the floor of the house. How to make sure that your coalition partners are not withdrawing support to your government. The focus of the Prime Minister is only about survival. Then when will he think about efficiency? When will he think about efficiency? And that is the reason why it will adversely impact efficiency. And what are the other reasons why it impacts efficiency? As we said, in coalition governments, you have different political parties who are part of the government. Different political parties are part of the government. So you have this party, this party, this party, like this. You have so many parties. And each and every political party has its own agenda. Every political party has its own agenda. When the ministers come from those political parties, will they be working for the government or will they be working for their political party agenda? If you are a coalition partner, will you be working for your political party or will you be working for the government? Will you be working for the political party, through which you have become part of the Council of Ministers, or will you be working for the overall government of the country? You will be working only for the political party. And that results in problems of coordination. That results in problems of coordination. And it results in continuous conflicts. That results in continuous conflicts. It results in continuous conflicts. Then what happens? Automatically the government will become inefficient. Inefficient. Why? Does the Prime Minister has the necessary power to control his coalition partners? His survival depends on the support provided by the coalition partners. Can the Prime Minister control them? Obviously not. When you are dependent on someone else, can you control them? You cannot. And that is what happens with coalition governments. Because every political party which is part of the coalition has its own agenda. They went to the elections on the basis of their own agenda. When the ministers from the party are there part of the coalition, those ministers will be trying to fulfill the agenda of their political party rather than working for the government. And that is what exactly happened with UPA government. DMK ministers were only thinking about their own agenda. TMC ministers were thinking about their own agenda. RJD ministers were thinking about their own agenda. But nobody was thinking about the country. Nobody was thinking about the government. And the Prime Minister had absolutely no control over the Council of Ministers. Why? If he tries to discipline them, immediately what happens? He will get a call from the leader of the political party saying that I am withdrawing support to the government. So what the Prime Minister has to do? He has to compromise with his efficiency to survive for longer periods of time. And that is the reason why coalition governments can be inefficient. It can result in inefficiency. Right? Then, these are all the weaknesses. Let us look at some of the strengths of coalition governments. So what could be the strength of a coalition government? Pardon? Better representation. Okay, then? Pardon? It will check regionalism. Okay, then? Supports federalism. Then? So, whatever you are saying, all of them are right. Let us put all those things in a more civilized manner so that you can write in the examination also. Right? First and foremost, the outgoing Chief Justice Chandrachud recently has made a comment. He said that the essence of basic structure of our constitution is about protecting the diversity of the country. This is where coalition governments can play a very, very important role. They will protect the diversity of the country. What kind of diversity you are talking about? Regional, linguistic, then economic, cultural, social, administrative, you name it. India is a country full of diversity. If you are a part of a coalition government, whenever you are making any policies, you must take into consideration this diversity. On the other hand, in case of a single party rule, does the Prime Minister need to take into consideration this kind of diversity? No. Why? Because you have a majority on the floor of the House. And you can use that majority on the floor of the House to come out with any policy that you want. And the first and foremost reason why a country like India must have coalition governments is to protect the diversity. The best example is this Waqf Amendment Bill. It has been sent to the Parliamentary Committee. Let there be more discussions. Let there be more negotiations. Let the government come out with a policy on the basis of consensus. This is the second important strength of a coalition government. In case of a coalition government, public policies can be based on much broader consensus policies. On the other hand, in a single party rule, is it needed for the political party and the government to ensure consensus? No. Why? Because you can use your brute majority on the floor of the House to get all your bills passed in a single party rule. But can you do the same thing in a coalition government? No. You have to get the support of all other political parties. That is where you need consensus. And on the floor of the House also, you have to get the support of opposition parties also, because then only the bills can be passed. This is the second advantage of coalition governments. First thing we have mentioned is diversity. Second thing we are talking about is consensus. Consensus, right? Consensus in decision making. Then what are the other advantages of coalition governments? What are the other strengths of coalition government? There is no scope for radical or revolutionary decisions. Radical or revolutionary decisions. What do you mean by that? In a single party rule, the leader of the government can take radical decisions because you have majority. For example, something like demonetization. Is it possible in a coalition government? Is it possible in a coalition government? If you have to get this policy approved by the cabinet, you must inform the cabinet ministers. These cabinet ministers are appointed by the leaders of the political parties. And these cabinet ministers will say that, please let us consult our leadership, then only we will come with our decision. When they are consulting their leadership, then can you implement it? What is the most important thing that is needed for demonetization? Secrecy. If everyone comes to know about it, then there will not be any demonetization. Right? There will not be any demonetization if everyone comes to know about it. These kind of policies are mostly should be done in a secretive manner. Whether it is good or bad, that's a different thing. But is it possible in a coalition government? In a coalition government, there is no scope for radical and revolutionary decisions. And that is what Kautilya says. What is good governance according to Kautilya? Kautilya has said good governance means avoiding radical decisions. Coalition governments can ensure good governance. They can ensure good governance because there is no scope for radical decisions. Similarly, you take the case of this complete lockdown that the government has announced during the corona times. Again, can these kind of radical decisions be implemented in a coalition government? Never, because you have to take permission from the coalition partners. Automatically everyone will come to know about it. And that is what we say. The best thing about coalition government is that it can ensure good governance. It can prevent dictatorial decisions by the leaders. Dictatorial decisions, which is what is needed in a democracy. This is another advantage of coalition governments. Next, what are the other strengths of coalition governments? What are the other strengths of coalition governments? In a federal polity like India, these coalition governments can ensure cooperative federalism. They can ensure cooperative federalism. Why? The central government depends on the support provided by regional political parties. And these regional political parties, they are concerned about their own state. So they keep on asking for more freedom from the central government. They keep on asking for more freedom from the central government. More powers from the central government, which is what we say cooperative federalism. And is it possible for the central government to misuse Article 356? No. Why? Because to get this Article 356 passed on the floor of the House, again you require the support of the political parties. They may not support you. It can prevent the misuse of Article 356. It can prevent the unilateral tendencies on the part of the central government. And that is the reason why coalition governments are necessary for a country like India, especially which has federal polity. Right? Which has federal polity. This is another major strength of coalition governments. Right? Next strength of coalition government is that in coalition governments, policy formulation can be difficult. In case of coalition governments, policy formulation can be difficult, but implementation can be easy. Implementation can be easy. Why? But implementation can be easy. Why policy formulation can be difficult? You can formulate policies only on the basis of consensus. You can formulate policies only on the basis of consensus. That is the reason why it is difficult. And it is easy. Why? Once you achieve a consensus, then implementation can be very easy. Once you achieve consensus, implementation can be very easy. Right? So these are all the relative strengths and weaknesses of coalition governments. Proceeding further, yeah. policy formulation can be difficult and implementation can be easy. You simply take the case of GST. For the first time, this GST was introduced in 2003 by the central government, saying that we want to bring in GST. And it was implemented in 2017. How much time it has taken? 14 years. Because to achieve consensus. After 2017, it has been implemented very smoothly, very efficiently. Right? On the other hand, in a single party rule, policy formulation can be easy, but implementation can be difficult. Can you give me the example here? Yes, if you look at the 3 farm bills, the central government did not take much time to get the bills passed on the floor of the house because they have the majority. But implementation had become very difficult, and finally the government was forced to withdraw those bills. That is what we say. So which one is better? Coalition government or a single party rule? Right? Then let us come to some kind of conclusion about how to ensure success of coalition governments. If you look at from India's perspective, from the country's perspective, it is always better to have a coalition government than a single party rule, because it protects the diversity. It will promote the interests of the states. It will ensure consensus in policy formulation. It will ensure good governance. That means it will prevent radical revolutionary decisions. So from the country's long-term perspective, we should have coalition governments, looking at the kind of diversity that we have in our country. Then at the same time, we also have spoken about so many problems, so many weaknesses. How to overcome all of them? That is where we talk about the solutions. How to overcome policy paralysis. How to make sure that the Prime Minister can regain his composure and power and prestige. How to make sure that there will not be corruption. That is the reason why we say that for coalition governments to be successful, the first thing we say here is that there should be pre-poll alliance. First and foremost, we say that there should be pre-poll alliance to ensure success of coalition governments. Pre-poll alliance means political parties are coming together to contest elections jointly before elections. Pre-poll alliance. Like the present government. The present BJP government has joined hands with the Telugu Desam Party and Janata Dal United, Nitish Kumar, and contested elections jointly, so that there will not be any problem after the governments are formed. Second, there must be some kind of common minimum program. There should be common minimum program among all the coalition partners. There should be common minimum program among the coalition partners to ensure the success of coalition governments, so that they would not be fighting among themselves. Third, coalition can be led by a strong and powerful leader. It can be led by a strong and powerful leader, charismatic person, someone like Atal Bihari Vajpayee, someone like our Prime Minister, so that coalition can be stable. It can be stable. It can be stable. Fourth, these political parties which are part of coalition must have a similar political ideologies. They must have similar political ideologies. That means they are coming together not with the objective of sharing power, but to that have similar political ideologies. What is the reason why UPA experiment was a failure? Because there are political parties with radically different ideologies. Congress party was in support of liberalization, privatization, globalization. Communist parties were opposed to it, and that is where it was a failure. So this is what another thing that needs to ensure the success of coalition governments, because the future of India lies in coalition governments. So this is what about coalition governments. Any doubts you can ask. Common minimum program means the program which is accepted by all the coalition partners. These are all the things that we are going to do when we come to positions of power. You must be telling the voters that we are contesting as a alliance. And right now we can see in Maharashtra, you have this pre-poll alliance among one coalition led by BJP and other led by Congress. They have come out with their common minimum program also, so that it gives clarity to the voters regarding what these political parties are going to do when they come to positions of power. Right? Any other doubt? Then we can go to the next topic, that is Niti Ayog. Yes, before that we can take break. Right? Yes. We will take break, and after that we will look at Niti Ayog.